Okay. Brett Yormark, the new Big 12 commissioner, I thought he was really impressive at Big 12 Media Day. Got to talk with him one-on-one a couple of different times, kind of off air, got to interview him on the radio, and then clearly listened to everything he had to say up on the podium. And I loved it. The Big 12 is open for business. And seems like a guy, he's going to do what's necessary to increase the value of the league when it comes to the television partners, like increase the value of the league in the eyes of the television partners. And he did address the possibility of OU and Texas leaving early for the SEC and said he's always open to a win-win scenario, Ted. I found that rather interesting.
Yeah, who knows what that might entail, but if that means ripping the Band-Aid off early and getting to a new television deal, maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe it's good for OU and Texas to leave early, but make it right financially with the Big 12. That would be viewed as a win-win, I'm guessing. Who knows what that means, but I think it's interesting. Going to do what's necessary to increase the value of the league in the eyes of the television partners. One of the things that increases the value of the league in the eyes of the television partners is for Bedlam to be continued to play. So I wonder what his thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't seem like a guy. This is what I said. And I only had a couple conversations with the guy, but he does seem like a guy that would walk in to a room full of the entire leadership group of Oklahoma State and say, "Hey, you're playing Bedlam," and then just walk out. It's kind of the vibe he puts up. Now he was extremely nice, very polite and everything, but he's not playing around, man. Yep. And I talked to him about the OU and Texas thing kind of alone. And basically he said, "Hey, I'm going to do what makes sense for the Big 12. Right? I'm going to do what makes sense for the Big 12." And he's got no animosity toward OU, toward Texas at all. He's really just concerned about doing what's best for the league that he is now in charge of. And he made it clear to me he takes a lot of pride in his reputation in the business world and the relationships he has. And he doesn't plan on letting this really be the thing that changes people's perception of him. So yeah. I don't know. He seemed like a very, very determined man to make it work.
Well, I still believe that the Big 12 has already made some really nice moves, and I think there's more possibilities out there for them, and I think it's going to continue to be a fun, competitive league.
Yeah, I will say he's got a very good skill of really making you feel like he's listening to what you're saying. And I mean, I can't assume he really cared that much about what I had to say, but I felt like he did. And I was like, man, that's a skill. That's good. He's good. He's good. I will say he kept bringing up, when I was talking to him, he kept bringing up storytelling. He was like the Big 12, they need to tell the story of the conference and of these teams and these universities more. I thought that was really interesting. And I told him, I was like, hey, you've got ESPN Plus. The only thing on there is games. I mean, there ain't no stories on there. You got a perfect platform to tell some stories, produce some content, and put it on there. Like all the schools, they've got content production teams that can do that stuff for you. And then I pitched him me doing a diners, drive-ins, and dives style show for the Big 12 on ESPN Plus. And he didn't know what Triple D was, and it broke my heart. I was like, you are from New York, aren't you?
So that is a good idea to go around.
It's a great idea.
And just because a lot of these places, being college towns, have some really unique places to go hang out on game days and stuff. So no, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. So we'll see. Okay. Some other things so I was able, every head coach and every player that came to media day, I was able to interview them all. So they all come through the car wash, and with Sirius, we get every single person. So the conversation with Sark was interesting, man. I mean, and just kind of the number one highlight. There's this theory out there that maybe he's going to hold off on starting Quinn Ewers until after they play Alabama, right? Maybe throw Hudson Card to the Wolves, and then once that game, once week 2 happens, then you can put Ewers on the field. And we asked him about that, and he basically said that if that is how he was thinking, he's in the wrong business. And if he was worried about a guy and putting him out there about, against Bama, then he's recruiting the wrong kids. So that kind of put that to bed for me. I think as far as the quarterback position, the best player is going to play. The guy that's most consistent in camp is going to play for Sark. So he kind of cleared that up for anyone. Now, hey, maybe that's ends up what's happening, but I don't think so.
Well,
you should have seen the look on his face when we asked him, and like we were talking through it, he was just like, what? It was hilarious.
Well, what's not going to be hilarious is watching their subpar offensive tackles try and block the best defensive player in college football.
Which he said he was not opposed to starting a freshman at tackle. And he's actually done it before. They did it with Evan Neal at Bama, and he said he did it at USC also.
Well, creative play calling can really help a tackle out. We've seen that before. We've also seen what happens whenever you can't call plays accordingly whenever you've got a tackle out there on an island. It can ruin the whole game. Not only can it ruin his confidence, it can end up ruining your quarterback's confidence too. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. It was interesting to get to talk to him. Okay. Mike Gundy, the man is an absolute treat. There's no doubt about it. And this was something we've talked a ton about it, right? What's their style going to be this season, right? It's got to change a little bit, right? You got to anticipate them taking a step back defensively. No, I basically asked Mike that question, and sounds like they're going with the same philosophy, man. It made it sound, and just from hearing him talk about where he thinks Derek Mason is now, by the way, they're running Jim Knowles' defense. Derek Mason, his job was to come in and learn Jim Knowles' defense. Now he's added a few things that he really likes, but they're going to be playing the same defense. Now it's not the same guy calling it, right? I understand that. But Gundy said, no. Derek came in, learned all our language, learned what we were doing. Like, they're running the same defense, which I thought was pretty interesting. But he also, just from hearing him talk, he loves that defensive front. Tyler Lacey and Brock Martin were both there.
They're going to be good.
They're going to be good up front. And just hearing him talk about it, man, I think they're going to be good on defense again, like better than I thought they were going to be, just from hearing Gundy talk about him.
Yeah. No, that'll be interesting. Hey, I know this from experience. If you're good up front, it makes life easier all the way to the very, very back. And they got some dudes up front now. So I do expect them to be good. As good as last year, I don't know. We'll see.
There's no way they had it was the best defense in the history of the school. Like, I think they could be good. There's no way they could be as good as they were last year. I'm not believing that.
I don't believe it either, but I don't know, man. Once a group sets a standard, you could be surprised at what the group following them lives up to.
That's a good point.
It doesn't always happen, but if they've got the right guys there and they've developed the right way, and those guys kind of went to school on how to carry themselves and how to practice and how to prepare and all those things, then it could surprise you.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to Dave Aranda, and guy's just a different dude, man. But he's he's starting to like open up more, and he's very delightful to be around. Like when he's talking, you just now he talks kind of quiet, so you just kind of have to lean in, but you're just really listening to what he has to say. And one of the most interesting things he told me was that because I asked him, hey, do you have to change your approach? Right. There was because remember, they picked 9th going into the league last year and ended up winning the Big 12 championship. Now they're picked to win it. And I was like, do you change your approach in any way? He's like, nope, don't change it. He was like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And I was just sitting there like, yes, sensei. Like he was, I thought that was interesting. And the other takeaway from the Baylor stuff is Dylan Doyle's a big dude now. And I know you like him, but I rode in the elevator with him at the Sheridan, and I was like, okay, that's a big inside backer.
6'3", 245-ish.
Yeah, big guy.
Yep. And been lifting weights since he's probably like 6 years old.
Correct.
Yeah, he's a good player, man. I really liked what I've seen from him, and I expect this year to really be no different. Maybe probably have his best year whenever he's got that 380-pounder in front of him.
Yeah. And you got 2 of them now.
Yeah.
Because you got the player kid that came. Now he's not as big as Ika, but yeah, Dave Aranda, what a guy. Just an interesting guy. Oh, okay. This may be, first of all, Matt Campbell. I don't know where he vacations, but the guy is Tanner. I
saw that.
It was the same way last year. Like, it's unbelievable. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if he like puts olive oil on his body, and I don't know, but it's like golden bronze. It's unbelievable. But this may have been my biggest takeaway, because I got to interview Matt. We interviewed him for 30 minutes. I got to talk to him off air quite a bit. And, him and I get along. They lose Breece Hall. They lose Brock Purdy. They lost Kolar. They lost the other tight end, Allen. But after talking to him and Xavier Hutchinson, he was there, their star receiver, I think Iowa State's going to be better on offense. And it's because it has everything to do with the way they were talking about Hunter Deckers. It sounds like Hunter Deckers is everything Brock Purdy wasn't. Elite arm strength, aggressive, smart with the football, but wants to push it down the field. So I know that Purdy set all the records. I understand that. A lot of people think he's the best quarterback in Iowa State history. I get that. But just hearing them talk about Hunter Deckers, they never talked about Brock Purdy that way. So it really got my attention, Ted. And it almost made me think that Iowa State's going to be a much better football team than I thought they were going to be.
Well, they probably are. I guess my thoughts about them, I guess offensively they may be better, but what are they going to be on defense? Because I feel like defense has always been their real calling card, and there's been a lot of turnover there, specifically on the back end, but they still got some good players on the back end. I bet that Iowa State is probably going to be better than projected, but so far we've gone through the list and everyone is talking about how great they're going to be. It's kind of not, it's like this every year, and some teams will live up to that, others won't. I'm still hesitant on Iowa State for whatever reason. I could be wrong on that, because they've done nothing but show that they can really develop players at Iowa State now. And if that continues to be the case and they're better at quarterback, well, they're at a minimum, they're still going to be an incredibly tough team to beat.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they're not a team that's challenging to win the conference, they're going to be incredibly tough.
Yeah. I picked them 5th, entering, in the preseason poll. So I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I mean, you just had your most talented team arguably ever, and you won 7 games. So
yeah,
gonna have to see it. And if Texas Tech, man, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I don't know how many games Tech is going to win. I have no idea. But I can tell you this. there is no doubt that Joey McGuire's players are absolutely buying what he is selling. Miles Price, their star receiver, he said Joey McGuire being hired and the way that they're doing things is the best thing that's ever happened to him during his football career. Tyree Wilson, who, by the way, is the best looking player in the conference. The guy's huge. I mean, massive. Edge player. I think he had 7 sacks last year. He told us he's going to double that to 14. And Joey McGuire has these guys convinced. He said they're probably going to be the best defense in the Big 12. Like, these guys' confidence and energy, sky high, Ted. Sky high.
I think they're going to do I think Joey McGuire was the perfect hire for Texas Tech. I think he's going to recruit really well. Their recruiting ranking isn't going to be high, but Baylor, for instance, has really cashed in on all of Joey McGuire's recruiting contacts. That was Matt Rule's, he brought him in as soon as he went to Baylor, and that is what brought that program back so fast. He knows all the diamonds in the rough out there recruiting wise. So I don't doubt it. I think they got a chance offensively. I think they obviously got a chance defensively. Best defense in the Big 12, bit of a reach, but I still don't know. I'm kind of like you. I don't really know where to project Texas Tech this year. I'll give them a little bit of a work in progress, but next year they could be incredibly tough.
Yeah. Maybe my favorite thing was that Joey McGuire, he told us, he's trying to, he wants the kids, like when they walk into the football facility, for that to be the best part of their day. And it was interesting, balancing, like being a coach and almost trying to be super friendly. And he said he lures them in to come talk to him by outside of his office. He said he's got a direct line of sight from his desk. He's got a stash of honey buns and hot Cheetos. He said that's how he lures him in. He's like, he makes him come talk to him once he sees him grabbing him and makes him tell him about their day. And he's like, I'm developing these relationships. He said the nutritionist isn't thrilled about it, but the honey buns and hot Cheetos, Ted, that's how he reels him in to talk to him.
That's interesting. The philosophy is fascinating to me. Yeah, and there's different ways to win, obviously, but I remember going into the facility being the worst part of my day every single day, without question.
A lot of stress and anxiety as you walk in the door.
Stress, anxiety. I don't care if Coach Stoops and them had gold bars sitting outside their office. I wasn't going onto that floor.
I know, that's why it's a different mentality, right? It's different. Yep. So Joey McGuire's an absolute delight to be around, man. I mean, he was as nice and cool as, and we'll see what happens on the field, but man, they're
going to be better. They're going to recruit like crazy. They're going to have players that just arrive out of nowhere. Like, where did this guy come from? 3-star from somewhere in Texas, and is going to be an all conference type of player, just like what happened at Baylor.
He has taken what they did at Baylor under Matt Rule, and he's taken the exact same system, and it's got a lot of similarities to what Saban did, starting at Bama. Like, you have to meet these certain criteria of height, length, speed, and then he said, if we get the guys that have that type of talent, then I've got to convince these coaches that they're good enough to coach them up. So it was really interesting to talk to him. He was a delight. I mean, he was, for sure. West Virginia, JT Daniels going to be their starting quarterback. There's this quarterback battle going on there, but when we were talking to Neal Brown about it, who, by the way, Neal Brown said he'll come on this podcast.
Yeah.
So we gotta get something scheduled with Neal, because he's one of my favorite. But he every time we were talking about the offense or the quarterback, it seems like it always drifted back to JT Daniels and how smart he is and intelligent of a player he is and how impressive he's been, from a leadership perspective, all that stuff. So I'd be very, very surprised if he's not their starting quarterback against Pitt.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would be too, but that really doesn't change my opinion of what I think of West Virginia this coming season. I'm JT Daniels. I know he's got a lot of talent and he's shown some great flashes, but and I think West Virginia is still kind of what they've been recently. They've got some good, tough defensive players. They're going to be really tough on that side of the ball, but they've really struggled offensively, which is counterintuitive from what you thought whenever Neal Brown took over.
Yeah. Now they got Graham Harrell, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how much they throw it around.
Going back to his roots a little bit more with Graham Harrell on offense, right? Because he was a Leach guy. Air raidy since he's been at West Virginia, but that may change.
Yeah, we'll see. One last thing, and this is random. Actually, a couple more things. TCU, I do think that it's a legit quarterback battle between Duggan and what's Morris. That's his name. Yep. Almost forgot. I almost forgot your boy Chandler Morris's name.
I almost just called him Chandler Jones.
Well, if TCU had Chandler Jones, they'd be in really good shape.
Yes, they would. Not at quarterback though. They don't want him at quarterback.
I'd take my chances with that guy.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But so yeah, got to talk to Sonny Dykes. Really, really cool guy. I'm interested to see what things look like offensively for him. I think a lot depends on if they can get an offensive line that can play worth a damn or not. But this last observation from Big 12 Media Day, and maybe the most random one, Lance Leipold's much better looking in person. It was just, I don't know why, because last year he couldn't make the trip, right? Because they had a plane issue. So he wasn't there last year. So this was the first time I had seen him in person. He was in a suit. He was like all tan. He looked a lot younger than I thought he would look. I don't know. Maybe it's because his players pretty confident bunch. Jalen Daniels had like some red suede loafers on. It was pretty, yeah. And I will say their players, they carried themselves with a very different energy than I thought they would. I think they're I don't know how many games they're going to win, but Lance Leipold has that thing headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I've heard so many people saying good things about what's going on in Kansas under Leipold that it's got my attention. I'm interested. I'm all for every program in the conference playing good football, and they've got a handful of really good players. I think Jalen Daniels I think he's really good, but he has literally never had more than like a second and a half to throw the football. Once that takes place, if they can give him a little bit of protection up front, I think he could do some dangerous things.
I'm with you.